my name is Sarah, and today is my 1-year booktube anniversary. 1 year ago today, I uploaded my very first video and my booktube journey officially began. A year ago, my channel was originally called Stacks and Scones, and I later changed the name to Sarah Ann Reads. And what a lot of people don't know is that I actually intended to upload my first video on September 1st. I had this whole grand idea of, new month, new projects, new exciting things, new chapter, hooray! And I couldn't figure out how to schedule a video on YouTube because I didn't yet know that you had to be a YouTube partner in order to schedule videos and all this stuff. So rather than my first video going up at a nice, clean, lovely time on the morning of September 1st, it went up at a super random time on the evening of August 31st, and thus my booktubing adventure began. It has been a fantastic year full of so many wonderful experiences, meeting so many of you in person and virtually online, and learning about so many new books, and just being part of this community has been absolutely delightful over the last year. I have loved my first year on booktube, and I'm super excited to reach this milestone and to see what year 2 holds. To celebrate my 1-year booktube anniversary, today we are doing a Q&A video along with a giveaway where one lucky person will win a blind date with one of my favorite books. All that said, let us get started with the questions. Question number 1 was actually asked by 2 different people in a slightly different way. Robin Wagner on YouTube asked what inspired me to start my channel, and William Holden, aka Fantasy Geek 15 on Twitter, asked how I became a booktuber. Basically what happened is I have long been a reader, and I have long been much more of a reader than most of the friends that I have in my everyday life, and I found myself just really desiring to have some sort of avenue to talk about books with other like-minded book lovers, and in particular to have some sort of avenue for talking about books on the internet. Because of time that I spent as a journalism major in college, I wrote book reviews and knew that I didn't particularly love writing about books, but I did absolutely adore talking about them. And some of my internet friends from my blogging days had started doing this whole booktube thing. And so I started asking questions about how much time it took to film and edit and all of these things, and that is how Sarah Ann Reads was formed. William also asked what other booktuber I admire, and I can't answer just one particular person for this because there are so many incredible people over the last year that have just inspired me and who I admire so much for their content, for their generosity, for their personalities, and just all sorts of wonderful things about them. A few of those of course include my blogger friends turned booktube friends who inspired me and encouraged me to start my channel in the first place. Emily from Emily Hornberg, Kirsty from Melbourne on My Mind, and Mari from My Name is Mari Ness. Also the incredible ladies of the monthly recommendations group, Kayla from Kayla Rain and Trina from Between Chapters, along with so many others, Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, Sam from Sam's Nonsense, Connor from Connor O'Brien, Raul from Latin Lector, Casey from A Basket Casey Reads, Cece from Problems of a Book Nerd, Caitlin from Caitlin Vaness, Josh from Squibbles Reads, and I'm sure way too many other people that I'm just completely forgetting. Adventures in Polish Land asked, what are your top 3 favorite genres to read? And those are definitely literary fiction, historical fiction, and mystery/thriller. And on the flip side of my favorite genres, Brianna XOXO asked, what is your least favorite genre? And for this I would have to go with like erotica or new adult, like basically anything that is very sexually explicit I am just not a fan of. Justice Green asked, if you could become fluent in any language, which language would you choose? I really think I would have to go with French. I studied French in high school and college, and I just think it is an absolutely beautiful language. I know France gets a lot of flack from a lot of people, but I think their culture is lovely. There are so many things about the art and literature and other wonderful cultural things that they have created, and just the way that the language sounds is just absolutely beautiful to me. I also happen to have a phrase tattooed on my foot in French, so you could say I'm a bit of a fan of that language. Gabrielle H asked, if you could choose any mythical creature to have as a friend or pet, which would you choose? And I thought about this for the last couple of days, and I'm sure that there is some mythical magical creature that I am totally forgetting, and as soon as someone mentions it in the comments, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, that! Why didn't I think of that? But that's what's going on right now. So the mythical magical creature I would choose to have as my pet and or friend is a phoenix, specifically Fawkes from the Harry Potter series, because let's just be honest, Fawkes is baller. My roommate Holly Smith, aka HE Smith 4 on Twitter, asked, what is my favorite video that I have ever done? The more that I think about it, I think some of the favorite videos that I've done over the last year are my discussion videos, particularly my discussions on DNFing and book optimism and my discussion on book buying habits. I love to talk about individual books, I love to do reviews, I love to do wrap-ups and hauls and tags and stuff, but discussions are just really fun for me because I think it opens up a whole new avenue of conversation, and it's just something that that everyone can share their opinion on when you talk about different topics related to reading and literature and writing and all of the other things tangentially connected to books. And so I've actually got several discussion videos planned for the next several months that I am very, very excited about, and I'm really hoping to get more of a focus on discussion videos in the coming months, because like I said, they're just some of my favorite videos that I've ever done, even if they do take a bit more time and planning than, say, a book haul. Lindsay Tastic asked several questions, and the second question she asked was also asked by Casper the Sarcastic Ghost, and that is basically, what are your hobbies or what do you like to do outside of booktube? In addition to booktube and reading, I really do love to write. I have been writing since I was a very young kid. I'm an avid journaler and also a blogger, though I've been a little bit iffy on my schedule for that recently, but yeah, I really love to write. I also really love to sing and really do anything that's performance related. I have been performing, be it dance or acting or singing, since I was about 5 or 6 years old, and recently I've been focusing a bit more on the vocal part of stuff with some choirs and other select groups that I'm in at my church, but I really love to do all three of those things, and when I get to do them together in like a musical, it's like the best thing ever. I also really love what my roommate and I call taking adventures. I live right outside Washington, D.C., and so there is a ton of stuff to do in this area that is just fun and also usually free, and so I've really been trying to make more of an effort to actually go out and do things on a regular basis in this area. The next two questions from Lindsay are, what are your favorite TV shows and movies? And I'm not a big TV watcher. I never really have been. Pretty much the only show that I watch in real time is Once Upon a Time, though I do usually catch up on The Big Bang Theory and Criminal Minds after the season is done and the shows are on Netflix or DVDs. I was also a big fan of Castle and How I Met Your Mother when they were on, and then some shows that I watched from start to finish after they finished that I really enjoy are Friends and Gilmore Girls. My favorite movies include The Princess Bride because it's absolutely hilarious and wonderful. I also love The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. I think it is one of the most underrated chick flicks, and it is freaking hilarious. I really, really love Ever After with Drew Barrymore, along with some animated classics of Anastasia, Thumbelina, and Sleeping Beauty, and then classic musicals like Singin' in the Rain and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Next question is, what do you like to eat? Bread. Hands down. If it was at all healthy, like in any way remotely healthy, to eat just bread and fruit all day, every day, that is what I would eat. All the time. Especially ciabatta and French baguettes, because they are delicious. The next two questions are from Leah808 Plans, and the first one is, has there ever been a book that exceeded your expectations? And for this, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Harry Potter series. I didn't actually read the Harry Potter series until 2011. Actually, as of the filming of this, late August, early September, I was in the middle of reading the Harry Potter series for the first time back in 2011. And I expected it to be a pretty decent series just because so many people loved it, but I did not expect to love it as much as I wound up loving it, particularly Deathly Hallows, which, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know is my favorite book in that series. So that is definitely one that exceeded my expectations. And the second question is, has there ever been a book that you found underwhelming? And if you watched my videos at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, then you probably know the answer to this already, and it is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Daria Marshall asked, if you could only save one book from your personal library, what would it be? Without a doubt, it would be this copy of A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. My mom gave this to me for my 12th birthday. A Wrinkle in Time is now and continues to be one of my all-time favorite books, and in many respects, this is the book that turned me into a lifelong reader, and I have every intention of one day hopefully giving this to my daughter when she turns 12 years old as well, and so this is definitely the one that I would save if I could only save one. Books Are My Social Life asked, what are some of the best places you've traveled to, and what are some places you would like to travel to? Okay, so I've done a fair amount of traveling. I've been to 43 out of 50 states and 12 different countries, 3 out of the 6 inhabited continents. So I have done a fair amount of traveling in my time, and probably my all-time favorite place that I have ever been is the Isle of Skye in Scotland. It is this island in the heart of the Scottish Highlands, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It is so, so incredible. I loved Great Britain in general. London in particular is just a delightful place to go, but the Isle of Skye is just breathtaking in so, so many ways. And then when I was actually a little kid, we lived in Italy, and so I've seen incredible pictures of all of the places we visited in Germany and Switzerland and Denmark and the place that we lived in Italy, and I feel like if I remembered those, they would probably be up there as well, but I have very few memories of them because we moved there when I was 2 and we left when I was 4 and a half. As for places I'd like to travel to, I have a very extensive travel bucket list. Like, I have US cities that I want to go to, US states that I want to go to, countries that I want to go to, international cities that I want to go to, and then like individual landmark things that I wanted to go to, but I think at the top of my list right now is France, because like I said earlier, I love the language, I love the culture, there's so many beautiful things about it, and I've just heard that there are so many wonderful things about that particular country, and so yeah, I really would love to go to France. Spain is also pretty high up there on the list as well, and then knocking out the last 7 states that I have in the US, which is Alaska and New England, so Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. She Lives and Breathes Books asked, what books/events really started you reading? And Avocada asked, what inspired you to read? And I have always been a reader in many respects, or really just a person who loved stories. I began telling stories with my toys and my dolls long before I could ever actually read, and that fascination with stories I think is probably the primary catalyst for why I loved to read as a kid and why I've continued to love to read as an adult, as I have just always loved stories. But like I mentioned a little while ago, my mom gave me A Wrinkle in Time for my 12th birthday, and that is the book that I really credit with turning me into a lifelong reader. Up until that point, I had loved stories and I had loved coming up with them and reading them and all of those things, but that was the first book that I ever read that I definitively remember realizing that it was more than just a nice story, that there was an actual impact that stories could make, and it got me thinking about so many different things, and that is one of the reasons that I continue to come back to that story over and over and over again, now 15 years after I read it for the first time, because it made me realize that stories are such a powerful thing. Books and Jams asked, have I heard that Netflix is doing a new Anne of Green Gables series? And the answer is yes. Within just a few hours of the announcement actually coming out, I had multiple, like 3, 4, 5-ish people send it to me on Twitter or on Facebook or something like that, and I consider it quite an accomplishment that now anytime news breaks in relation to Anne of Green Gables, multiple people make sure that I know ASAP. Shay Geeks Out asked, now that I've been doing this booktube thing for a year, what videos do I dread making? And I don't totally have an answer to this question, because on some level, if I dread making the video, I'm probably not going to make it, because I've really been striving to make the content for my channel that I actually enjoy making, and not just content that I'm supposed to make because other people make that content. So when it comes to the content that I actually do make on a regular basis, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I think the videos I dread the most are actually my wrap-ups, and it's not because I don't enjoy wrap-ups, but it's because I read usually a minimum of 7 to 8 books every single month, and sometimes more. Like in the month of July, I read 13 books, and that's not that many for some people, but I'm a pretty verbose person, if you haven't noticed. I like to talk a lot, and I like to share my opinions and more than just like 30 seconds worth of my thoughts on a book, and so wrap-ups can be really hard for me. I find it really hard to balance not talking super fast, but also sharing good, well-rounded thoughts about the books and not making every single wrap-up forever long. Bookmarks and Bookshelves asked, I see that you own the Penguin Dropcap series. Were those mostly cover buys, or had you read many of them prior to purchasing them? And this is 100% a case of cover buys. I've actually read a couple of these, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and some of the later books like Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, but this is actually a little bit deceptive. I know you can't see the whole shelf down, but I actually only own A through L at the moment, though M through Z are definitely on my wish list, but they're just really pretty, and I am actually a hand letter, and so the fact that it's not just pretty covers, but it's like pretty typographic lettered covers, I couldn't pass it up. Fred Weasley Died Laughing asked, what is your most cherished book? And you can probably guess from a little bit earlier, but it is this copy of A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. I love this book so much, and it holds such a dear place in my heart because it was given to me by my mom, who is in so many ways the person that inspired me to read, and the story, this just had such a huge impact on me. This is why I am standing here before you today filming a video and talking about books on the internet, because this book literally changed my life. I love this book to pieces, and I'm starting to tear up, so we're gonna stop talking about this now. Haley Munsterman asked, what are your suggestions for reading slumps? And I think my biggest suggestion for reading slump is always to pick a book that you know you can fly through quickly. Whether it's a book that you haven't read before but you know will still read really fast, or it's a favorite that you just know you're gonna fly through. Pick something that's just gonna sort of throw you back into reading, and then hopefully that will sort of kickstart you and get you back into a groove. Raoul from Latin Lector asked, if you could recommend one book that you think every person should read, what would it be? Really, guys? Are we even surprised at this point? A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. The lovely Sam from Sam's Nonsense asked, what is my favorite Anne book? And it's either Anne of Green Gables or Anne of the Island. I can never totally decide though. I love Anne of the Island for many, many reasons that any lovers of the series will completely understand, particularly the ending of that book, but I also just really love the first book. It is Anne at her most precocious. It is the story that made me fall in love with her in the first place, and there are just so many wonderful and hilarious and fantastic things that happen in that book, and I just adore it with every fiber of my being. So I sort of go back and forth between the two and can never totally decide, but it's either Anne of Green Gables or Anne of the Island. Definitely one of those two. And finally, Trina from Between Chapters asked, what is my most anticipated release of 2017? And at the moment there are 3, because I'm really bad at choosing just one for pretty much any of these questions. The first one is Ash and Quill, which is the 3rd and final book in the Great Library trilogy by Rachel Kane. The second is the as yet unnamed finale to the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And the third is the illustrated edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which is my second favorite book in the series, and I am so excited about it. Well, those are all or most of the questions that you guys asked. If I had to edit out the answer to any of your questions, just for the sake of time, head back to the original video, which I will link above and below, because I have answered all unanswered video questions in the comments over there. Now that the questions are out of the way, it is time to choose the winner of the blind date with a book giveaway. I have written the names of all of you guys that commented on the original video on little slips of paper that are in here, and so we're gonna sort of twirl this around and pick one name. Alright. And the winner of the blind date with a book giveaway is Shay Geeks Out. Oh, Shaylin, I'm so excited for you. Please send an email to sarah@sarahannhayes.com with some general info about your genre preferences and the books you love, and also the books that you really don't enjoy, though I do know some of your preferences based on watching your channel, but just a little bit of additional info would be fantastic. And then also send me your mailing address with that, and then I will take all of that fantastic information, choose one of my favorite books that I think you would super enjoy, wrap it on up, and send it your way to send you on a blind date. Well, there you have it, friends. That is my 1-year Booktubeversary Q&A. Thank you so much for asking questions. Thank you so much for making this first year of BookTube such a fantastic one. I am so grateful to any of you that have commented, subscribed, watched, tweeted me, sent me an email, talked to me at BookCon, any and all of the above. I can pretty much guarantee that if it wasn't for you guys, I would not still be here a year later doing this. But I have had so much fun over this first year booktubing, and I'm very excited to see what the next year has in store. If you want to follow me elsewhere online, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, all at Sarah Ann Hayes. The links for those profiles will be in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time for the start of another year of BookTube. Bye! Oh, and Rebecca from Why My Rates. She is also fantastic. And Max from Well Done Books, and Maureen from Maureen Keevy. I forgot so many people. There's just too much wonderfulness in the BookTube community, and too many people that I love and admire. Also, Caitlin is from Book Chats. I don't know why I said she came from Caitlin Vines earlier. I got her Twitter handle confused with her YouTube channel, but yeah, just all the wonderful people. I love you guys all. Mwah. Mwah, mwah, mwah.